are back.
In a world of social media and information at our fingertips, we're bombarded with health advice 24/7. And cutting through the noise can be tough.
I just thought, what have I done?
From miracle medicines that do more harm than good, to rip-off remedies that waste your money, we'll help you sift the right advice from the downright dangerous.
It's just, okay, here, you should try this, you should try that, or you should stop doing this and start doing that.
We'll shine a light on medical malpractice and criminal behaviour.
Non-cancerous. I didn't have cancer.
From scammers preying on the most vulnerable to pretend practitioners,
I literally look like Frankenstein's monster.
we'll help you take your health in your own hands.
This is Con or Cure.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Con or Cure, where we're tackling more of the questions you tell us you want to know. What really works when it comes to our health? What's just a waste of time and money? And what is downright dangerous?
And we're hearing more of your health stories, including some cautionary tales about the dangers of health tourism and the fake cancer cures being touted to vulnerable victims.
Coming up, when his wife was diagnosed with cancer, Brian found all manner of advice online.
Some of the recommendations were coming from people who clearly had a financial interest in whatever remedy it was that they were trying to recommend.
We test the latest health gadgets on the market. Look like a sort of sci-fi Greek tragedy.
Oh, slightly menacing.
And we'll find out if CBD oil lives up to the hype. A lot of the excitement comes from the fact that CBD, cannabidiol, is really effective in certain medicines. But first, the recent boom in dental surgery abroad comes as no surprise in many ways. Who wouldn't want a cheaper deal and maybe a holiday to boot? But while there are many reputable clinics in other countries, the growth in health tourism has meant a steep rise in scam practitioners.
All the work done, pain-free, perfection. The Hollywood smile is the perfect smile. You know, you are sold an absolute dream, but you're delivered a complete and utter nightmare.
Every year, thousands of people from the UK travel abroad for surgery of all kinds, and amongst the common procedures is dental work. With the promise of perfect gnashes and all much more affordable, Turkey has become one of the go-to destinations to achieve that Hollywood smile. The cheaper cost of treatment, celebrity endorsements of Turkish clinics, and combining the treatment with a holiday have all boosted its appeal. Its popularity has even given way to a new term, turkey teeth. It was an option that seemed ideal for Amanda Turner from Belfast.
While I was pregnant, my teeth were crumbling. They were breaking very easy. I needed a tooth extracted and I needed multiple root canal treatments done. But by the time my appointment came, I wasn't able to make it. So then I had to wait on another appointment with my dentist, and it was going to take even longer. So that's when, I started exploring other options.
Amanda began looking at clinics in Turkey, and seeing the cheaper costs, she elected to get 28 individual crowns, as well as her necessary repair work in order to achieve that Hollywood smile she so badly wanted.
I was on Facebook. I seen that this one clinic in particular that I did use. Then I went on Instagram again. The same clinic kept on appearing to me. I checked that they have availability. By the time I was going, it was £3,050. That included my hotel and my transfers and my root canal treatments and my 28 individual teeth. So I thought, okay, £3,050, do you know what, I'll go.
With everything arranged, less than 2 weeks after making first contact with the clinic, Amanda flew to Istanbul in April 2022.
My first impressions whenever I arrived, from what I'd seen by my hotel, it was 5-star. It was beautiful. When I arrived at this clinic and I went in, everything looked amazing. I paid £3,050 cash. A cash payment is what they had asked me for. I also had signed forms, basically what I was getting my Hollywood smile, a form to say that I was getting my 28 individual teeth, and I signed a form for my 20-year guarantee, my warranty, for my 28 individual teeth.
But come the day of the procedure, Amanda's concerns grew.
So the dentist who I seen, he was not the same man from the pictures that I had seen, like the photos and the videos. He was an older man, but he had 35 years experience. I felt, 35 years experience, I'm in good hands. So when I had Xand done, and I went in and was sitting with the dentist, and they told me that I didn't need the root canal treatments done, and I believed it. I trusted the professionals to do their job.
Amanda would later discover that she did in fact require the root canals, but at the time, she was happy to hear there would be less work carried out.
So then when I went in, I was on the chair. They had injections. They just started whacking these injections in all around my mouth.
Each of Amanda's teeth needed to be filed down to make space for the crowns to fit over the top. And the dentist wasted no time in getting to work.
He started to do the work. He started drilling down my teeth. I could feel my body, I was shaking. I felt like a fish out of water. I was going into shock. I was crying. I was like, it's too sore, just stop. I don't want to do it. They was like, you're okay, and they were holding me down. And I was like, no, it's very sore. I don't want it, just stop. So then he started giving me more injections and more injections. I was saying about 2 or 3 hours, he had all my teeth filed down. The pain was horrendous. They have filed my teeth into very small, sharp points.
After this procedure, Amanda returned to her hotel in pain and unable to eat as the clinic had not fitted temporary teeth to protect what was left of her own teeth. With warning signs mounting, Amanda returned to the clinic 2 days later, thinking that they were going to fit temporary teeth to last her until her crowns were ready to fit.
So before I'd actually even went to the clinic, I had asked for a different shape to the front of my teeth. So then when I went back to the clinic on the Wednesday, they had these rows of teeth. They were fitting these in my mouth, and I thought, they must be my temps. But I never, ever imagined that 2 days later, them teeth were going into my mouth. I had no idea.
Amanda was expecting and had paid for 28 individual crowns. Despite the bridges being incorrect, the clinic pressed ahead the following day.
I got to the clinic and I seen these rows of blank teeth, and I was like, where are my teeth? It kind of started didn't feel right at that stage. I thought, this isn't right. The next minute, I'm getting these teeth glued into my mouth. And I thought, have you just stuck them into my mouth? They were all over the top of me. I felt, do I say something here? I felt intimidated. I felt very scared. I was frantic. I was sad, upset, nervous, afraid, everything. I just thought, what have I done? Why have I done this? How foolish I was. And when, by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. There was nothing that I could do about it. They had glued these bridges into my mouth, and there was nothing at all that I could do. I started getting very agitated. I grabbed the driver and I pulled him to the door, and I said, get me to the hotel. I want to go to the hotel.
Once in the safety of her hotel, Amanda phoned the clinic to complain about the deviation from her agreed treatment plan. Later that evening, the hotel Amanda was staying in told her she had to leave as the clinic were refusing to pay for the remaining few days of her stay. Fearing she would be left alone and vulnerable at night in a foreign country, Amanda phoned the British Embassy, who helped get her back to Northern Ireland. Once back, Amanda sought help from her local dentist and began posting on social media about her traumatic experience.
The damage that they have done is so bad. The teeth aren't even in right. The pain I am in is unbearable.
I took to social media to warn other people, to warn them not to go to the same place I went, and to make them aware of what can go wrong.
With quotes of over £18,000 to correct the damage done and complete the neglected root canals, Amanda was at an all-time low. But hope was on the horizon. Her viral video had reached renowned dental surgeon Dr. Rona Iskander.
Amanda Turner first came on my radar when I was scrolling through TikTok and I was on holiday with a friend and I just couldn't believe her story. I was horrified that within just a few days of returning from her experience abroad regarding dentistry, that she had to immediately be seen for an emergency appointment and that she'd been told by her dentist that to repair the damage that would be done would be at least £20,000 or so. And she was literally using the words, "You have ruined my life," on the video to the dentist that had treated her abroad. So my heart went out to Amanda and I just felt like I had to reach out to her to help her, maybe even offer some impartial advice or some guidance. And that's when I contacted her on TikTok. So what Amanda went through abroad is definitely what's being seen, and it's what I would describe as over-treatment. And I think this is the massive problem because these clinics abroad are saying, let's treat every tooth in your mouth. This is massively invasive. I would never offer 24 teeth to be done, only perhaps in a full mouth rehab case, which means that every tooth needs to be treated. But 9 times out of 10, I don't offer that because you just don't need it.
Amanda has now had 30 hours of corrective procedures with Dr. Rona, with a further 40 scheduled to give her the smile she wanted.
Amanda's teeth took, she told me, 2 to 3 hours when she went abroad, and it's taken us this long to repair it. So it's a lot of work. It's almost like having corrective surgery on any part of the body.
I just thought, was that the right choice? At the time, I thought it was. Now, looking back, I realize I made one of the biggest mistakes of my entire life.
It's a shocking film and kind of a cautionary tale for all of us, isn't it? Well, we're now joined by Dr. Rona Iskander, who actually has fixed Amanda's teeth, worked on her for quite a while. How's she doing?
So much better. She's absolutely thrilled.
Massive journey for her, though. And she's one of many, many people. Can you sort of talk us through this big rise in people getting dentistry abroad?
I think the pursuit of a perfect smile has been something that has been on the rise for the last couple of years, particularly during lockdown. We saw that people really focusing on the way they looked. They were on Zoom all day. They suddenly were faced with their own appearance constantly. And they were looking for different ways to get the smile that they desire. And I think the pressure of social media has really put this onus on your smile matters.
We spoke earlier about my teeth. What was your assessment?
Ashley, I said this then, and I'm going to say it again. They are beautiful, pearly, white teeth. Yes. But you have really healthy teeth and gums.
Well, that's really reassuring and good to know because I did send photos of my teeth to a few clinics abroad. Have a look at this. Hi there. Just wondering if you thought my teeth needs any improvements. Please see attached. Look, I will be the first to say my teeth are not perfect. Sometimes I forget to floss, but I don't think I need that much help from a clinic. Let's see what they have to say. Most were respectful, gave me decent feedback, but one clinic has recommended, check this, 24 crowns to the tune of 5.5 grand. No proper consultation, just one photo. What do you make of that?
It's really upsetting for me to hear this. I mean, as a healthcare professional that's always putting my patients' care at the forefront, this for me is like a massacre onto the body. You have healthy teeth. Crowns really are reserved for damaged teeth, for cracks, for teeth essentially that have had some kind of disease or large fillings. Not in your case.
So just to be clear, what's going on with that sort of assessment?
Crowns, although very invasive, are pretty quick to do in some circumstances. Often these clinics think, how many patients can I get in a day? How many treatments can I get done as quickly as possible? 24 crowns, yes, if you're comparing £5,500 to £30,000 in the UK, of course you're getting a bargain.
Yeah.
But I would have never said that to you.
I have to say that is really chilling to hear your assessment on that because there will be many people who are vulnerable, who are quite insecure about their teeth and might be lured in by that sort of assessment and actually make the plans to get the treatment.
Yeah.
And if you had that done and then things go wrong, you're back in the UK, finding a UK dentist to look after you then can be quite difficult. Is that right?
Well, first of all, the NHS won't cover something like this because the NHS don't cover cosmetic treatments gone wrong. Now, some private dentists will take on the work, but you're looking at spending 2 to 3 times the amount of money that you initially spent or more.
So the cost as well,
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, so the cost is absolutely huge. And a lot of people are reluctant to touch it because as soon as you touch it, you become liable. So the last person that touches it becomes the liable person. And because everything is such a mess, i.e. teeth have a really poor prognosis after they've been treated, they think, oh, I don't know if I actually want to go there.
If you're thinking about going abroad, how would you suggest approaching that?
I think one of the easiest things that you can do is book a consultation with a UK dentist for a second opinion, because what they'll do is they'll give you impartial advice, they'll give you all the treatment options, and they will go through what is needed. If you then have all of the information and you choose to go to a clinic abroad, you want to do things like look at their website, look at their credentials. Perhaps they're affiliated with a teaching university, which show they've got that professionalism and accountability. So those are some things that you can do. And also, I think it's important to ask them, what are my treatment options?
Yeah.
Can I only have this treatment done? Ask those questions. What are the risks? What will happen to my teeth once they're drilled? And what's the long-term implications?
Dr. Rona, thank you very much
No
indeed.
worries.
Cheers.
Lovely to see you guys.
Something that never ceases to amaze me is the length that scammers will go to. And they seem to take a particular joy out of trying to con people at their most vulnerable. When Laura Ego was diagnosed with cancer, her husband Brian was horrified to find out exactly how manipulative scammers can get when they're trying to make a quick buck.
For quite some time now, I've had an interest in alternative medicine and the claims that they make, and I guess the tricks of the trade when you're trying to sell snake oil to the public.
In June 2021, Brian Ego's wife Laura was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I'd had a lump for a while in my breast, but I was breastfeeding, so I just assumed that it was a lump to do with breastfeeding. So to be honest, I just kind of ignored it. But then it seemed to get a bit bigger, so I thought I really need to go to the doctors. So I went to the doctors. They gave me antibiotics just in case it was an abscess or something, and referred me to the breast clinic. I wasn't worried. I just assumed I was in my 30s, young kids. I didn't think I was cancer. I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to put my mind at ease. So when I went to the breast clinic and they told me I had breast cancer, it was a big shock. Kind of knocked me for 6.
Similarly knocked for 6 was her husband, Brian.
So Laura had her appointment. We drove along. I couldn't go in because of COVID restrictions, so I sat out in the car park at the time. Laura messaged me saying, "You're allowed to come in to hear the result." I went into the room and they broke just the worst possible news that the lump was malignant, cancerous. And at that point, your world starts to dissolve. And your head starts spinning and you have all sorts of strange, horrific thoughts going around in your head that you have to try and rationalize and figure out a plan. So it was pretty hard going.
Well, the first treatment I received, they went in to remove the lump. They test to see if they've got a clear margin around the tumour. Unfortunately, with me, there wasn't a clear margin. It went straight against my chest. So that was bad news. And then they found that it moved to my lymph nodes as well. So because it had spread a bit, they decided that it was best to go ahead with chemotherapy. 6 sessions of chemotherapy, roughly 3 weeks apart. I think the worst thing for me was losing the hair. My hair was coming out in big chunks, which was quite upsetting. So one night I just said to Brian, "Can you just shave it all off?" So at least I was in control, and that was it, done.
Following chemo, Laura went through a rigorous regime of radiotherapy, but her faith in the NHS never wavered.
They were the experts, so I wasn't going to do my own research and think, "Oh no, you're doing that wrong." But it's not been too bad. Rather than the joint pains is probably the worst thing. But on the scheme of things, you can't complain.
An active member of several skeptic groups, Brian sought out as many alternative medicine Facebook groups as possible and started posting, asking for advice about his wife's cancer in order to see what responses he would get.
I thought it would be interesting to join a bundle of Facebook groups and just post a message in there just saying, like, hey, my wife's been diagnosed with cancer. What would you recommend? Would you recommend conventional treatment or alternative treatment?
I was like, on you go, Brian. If you can get a silver lining out of this and do an investigation that you can make into a talk, then, or a presentation, good for you. So I wasn't surprised, and I was glad that he could do something positive, give him something to focus during a bad time.
I think the general theme that we see across all of it was, don't trust conventional medicine, but everybody's got their idea of what might cure cancer. It's just, okay, here, you should try this, you should try that, or you should stop doing this and start doing that. That was essentially what you're seeing there.
Misinformation can spread incredibly quickly and easily on social media because people can, in a matter of seconds, reshare a post or send it to a friend, even when they're not sure whether it's true. And communities can build online that tend to affirm each other's beliefs and share and share and share until something escalates into a total mistruth, even when it began perhaps with a little grain of truth somewhere.
But mistruths weren't the worst of it. Brian knew some people giving advice were clearly on the grift.
There was some direct messaging coming in as well, and some of the recommendations were coming from people who clearly had an interest in, a financial interest in whatever remedy it was that they were trying to recommend. One of the first groups I posted in, one of the admins of the group DM'd me pretty much straight away, saying that he had something that would help. The particular cure that he was trying to push in my direction was a strange supplement that appears to be like salted water. Like, some people have described it as seawater. It's not quite, right? But there's a very slick website, and the promises I got specifically from this person were, this will cure your wife's cancer.
And this was one of many pieces of bad advice that Brian received.
I can give you a full alphabet's worth of alternative medicine pseudoscience. Fenbendazole, which is an animal dewormer. Homeopathy, raw vegan diet, turkey tail mushrooms, urine therapy, carrots, coffee enemas, cannabis oil, camel urine, alkaline therapy. It's so easy to get hooked in because the promises they make are so compelling. They're so compelling. They've got the answer for you.
I think there's a misconception that people who believe what they see on social media or what they hear offline are more gullible than the rest of us, when actually we can all be really prone to very quickly taking on or believing what we see and hear. And that's because it can play on our emotions, it can exploit distrust or fears and concerns we have. I'm guilty of it. I sometimes see something, think it's real, and then very quickly realise, oh, hang on a second, where's the evidence? So it's all about the way we react and how quickly we can react to what we see and hear, particularly on our phones, particularly at times where we're worried or frightened or asking questions.
But as much as there were suggestions about what to do, the more dangerous advice related to what not to do.
No mammograms. Now, part of Laura's ongoing treatment plan is to have a mammogram every year now to check and see if anything's coming back. So there are people actively out there saying, don't do that, which is terrifying. The most common thing was sugar, because apparently sugar feeds cancer. No genetically modified food, no alcohol, no underwired bras. There were recommendations for her to have all of her fillings removed, and no soy.
There's nothing that people have said that I should cut out that has made me want to change my lifestyle. I think I was just unlucky with genetics. What you eat and what you put in your body has got very little impact on whether or not the cancer's going to come back or not. So no, I wouldn't take any of their advice.
After he'd gleaned all the information from the groups he was hoping to find for his investigation, Brian reported them to Facebook.
To date, none of those groups have been taken down. Not just Facebook. I was recommended a lot of YouTube videos I reported each and every one of those ones, and none of them have been taken down either. I think it's maybe more important to fuel the public with some good information and some critical thinking skills to help them figure out what's true and what's not true on the internet. In many cases, it's difficult, but once you know the hallmarks of a scam, you can spot them pretty well.
I think rather than being a trusting nation, we're almost the opposite. We're actually very distrustful. And it's that distrust that can leave people prone to disinformation online that exploits fears and concerns. They turn to spaces on social media rather than institutions or experts for answers.
Instead of following the suggestion online, Laura has opted to stick to more conventional methods.
The doctors are the experts, not the person on YouTube or Facebook. We're so lucky to have all this free treatment, so listen to the doctors.
We reached out to Facebook and they said to us, "We will take action on those that repeatedly share health misinformation. We remove dangerous health misinformation that's likely to directly contribute to imminent harm. We also direct people searching for health information to authoritative sources, including cancer charities." Well, that said, we understand that many of those groups touting cures found by Brian are still on Facebook today. Thankfully, Laura's health has since improved and Brian wasn't taken in by the scammers, but not everybody is so fortunate. I'm now joined by Jo Knowlton from Dundee. Now, 4 years ago, when she was 29, Jo was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and that's a condition that affects the brain and nerves, and it causes a weakness that progresses. It gets worse over time. Sadly, there is no cure, but in fact, Jo, you were scammed into buying a cure, weren't you?
Yes, there was, unfortunately.
Can you tell me about what happened? How did you come across the cure? How did the scammers find you?
I joined a Facebook group. I wanted to meet other people with the same diagnosis as myself, and I wanted to find out if there was anything that they were trying that might help improve their symptoms or sort of prolong quality of life.
So you did what loads of people do when they get a diagnosis of any kind, but particularly a chronic complicated one, is you go online looking for a community of people who can help you, offer a bit of moral support. That's a normal thing to do and a very helpful one.
Yes. So I introduced myself to the group. I got a response from a woman who was talking about caring for her husband. He had had motor neuron disease for 4 years, and he had gone from wheelchair to walking and fit and healthy with this herbal concoction that she was advertising.
And they offered to sell you some of that herbal concoction?
Yes, they offered to sell me some for £200. I just had to transfer the money via Western Union.
And do you remember how you felt when they said, look, we've got this mixture that'll help you? How did that make you feel?
It was a glimmer of hope. You know, I thought that there was absolutely nothing out there, and someone was now offering me a solution, something that was going to help me.
So £200 is kind of perfectly priced to be expensive, but within range of somebody who is desperate to find some hope with a difficult diagnosis.
Exactly.
And so what happened? How did you start to realize this might be a scam?
Once I had transferred the money, I received confirmation that it would be delivered from South Africa within 5 working days, which I thought seemed quite a short period of time for something to come from South Africa. But when I went back to the Facebook group, when I found their profile, I looked at the profile picture, and instead of it being a woman, it was actually a man holding a wad of cash.
Oh, literally kind of revealing himself to be a scammer with your money.
Exactly. It was very obvious from that point that it was a scam.
How did you feel when you saw that?
I was devastated because I really thought that I'd found something that was going to help me. But I was just completely crushed that someone would target a terribly ill person in this way.
So more than the loss of the money, it's actually the loss of hope and the feeling of vulnerability.
Yeah, it was really devastating.
Did you manage to get your money back?
Thankfully, I contacted Western Union quite quickly, and they were able to stop the payment from going through.
Now, have you stayed in any of the Facebook support groups, and do you see any of these miracle cures still popping up?
Yeah, I'm a member of more than one Facebook group for people with MND, and I see these scams pop up quite frequently.
And what do you do about them? I mean, have you ever alerted anyone else to say, look, by the way, this is a scam?
Yes, I'll report the comment to Facebook or the admin of the actual group itself. And I usually comment underneath it to make sure that everyone knows that this is a scam and not to fall for it.
Joe, do you have any advice for anyone out there who may be vulnerable to this? How do you spot a scam like this?
I would say that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And knowing that there aren't any treatments for motor neuron disease at the moment, it's, somebody from Facebook isn't going to come up with a solution if the doctors and pharmaceutical world haven't come up with anything.
I think that's brilliant advice. If something seems to be too good to be true, it almost definitely is. Of course, your healthcare providers desperately want you to get well, and they will have looked into everything. So if it's not advised by them, it almost certainly is a scam. Joe, we're very grateful for your help and your advice. Very good luck.
Thank you.
Well, if you're looking on social media sites for health advice and support, that can be a really valuable thing to do. But the most important thing to learn from Joe's story is that you are vulnerable. There are scammers out there who will deliberately target groups where people have gathered for a bit of support and they have difficult or potentially terminal diagnoses. Before you buy anything online, check with your healthcare team.
Still to come, it's all the rage on social media, but are there any real benefits to taking CBD oil?
There is ongoing research, and we will learn much more about CBD over the next few years. Any healthcare professional will tell you that keeping track of key indicators about our bodies is an incredibly important part of keeping people healthy. And there has been an explosion of gadgets and tech to help us do just that, from heart rate monitors to toilet monitors that look at your ones and twos. But do they actually make us healthier when we incorporate them into our daily lives? Well, to help us answer that question, we have amazing tech journalist Laura Lewington. Laura, welcome to the show. Thanks so much. This is an amazing kind of array of gadgets and things we're now confronted with. Can we start with the smartwatches, the movement trackers? Because you're like way down with them at the moment. And it's not just the two watches, you've actually got a ring on as well.
Yeah, here they are. I've got an Apple Watch, a Fitbit and an Oura Ring. So they track all your activity, temperature, heart rate, sleep, so many different things now.
And they've got a lot more accurate.
They have. I did an experiment years ago where I wore 4 of them for a whole week and looked at the data, and it was pretty different. I did the same thing last year, and the differences were negligible.
Amazing. So whichever one you're getting accurate data. My interest as a healthcare professional is like, if you give them to someone, yeah, they'll measure them, but will they change their behavior? Is it a useful intervention? There is some evidence, if people are engaged with them, they will actually encourage activity, which is definitely good and healthy. The other thing that I really notice about these is they're gathering a lot more information, but sometimes it's hard for an individual to interpret.
With some of this information, it's quite easy to see how far you've walked, how much sleep you've had, although they do all track the sleep slightly differently. So it is quite difficult to compare like for like on that, but you can effectively see how many hours sleep you've had. It's just when you take that data to the next level to really try and find it useful, you probably still need a doctor a lot of the time if you're doing it for a proper medical issue.
And it may be, if you bring all that information to your GP, they just go, look, I don't know how to interpret this. We've never had these data sets before. So I think in a decade's time, we're going to know much more about the value of this data. And it may well turn out to be very useful.
Yeah, and the AI will be analysing it and then probably writing to the patients. But we're a way off that yet.
What else have you got?
Well, here is a TENS machine, which is rechargeable by USB. So instead of those devices that have lots of leads coming out of them, if you've got a pain, you can stick this to you, go out wearing it, and hopefully it might help a bit. What do you make of that?
So a TENS machine, TENS is transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. I don't think we fully understand how it works, but it effectively stimulates your nerves and seems to distract people from pain. So things like period pain, in pregnancy, with back pain, things like this. So they can be really useful. I've got to say, I'm quite impressed with this. If it works well, it's very much more convenient than the more old-fashioned version of this. That's pretty cool.
It looks quite neat and easy, doesn't it?
Maybe the most extraordinary one to me as a healthcare professional is this new device, the Xand. It's going to be out in the UK later this year. and it sits in your toilet bowl and monitors what goes in. What do you make of this, first of all?
Okay, well, urine analysis can apparently monitor lots of different things. And so there are various cartridges that you can choose as to what you want to monitor with it. So for women, they can do menstrual health. You can even monitor your nutrition, your hydration. You choose what factors are important to you, and then you just have to change these cartridges every 3 months. But how useful do you think this data is?
Let's assume that the readings it's giving you are accurate. These things are pretty hard to interpret. Again, the technology may be just giving us data that is beyond our ability to use. I mean, in a way, this is quite an old-fashioned thing to do, right? Doctors staring at patients' urine has been going on for millennia. Doctors have liked to do this. As long as we've had glassware, we've been staring at patients' urine. So it's a reasonable thing to do, and there are lots of medical tests we do on urine. But once you start getting this data every day, it is a bit hard to know what to do with. And in the end, for any intervention, you're going to have to go and chat with your doctor. Of all the gadgets you brought in, perhaps this is the strangest one. Talk to us about this.
It may look a little bit odd. You can try it on if you like. Let me put the lights on. This is an LED face mask, which should deal with a variety of skin conditions. Psoriasis, even just for anti-aging treatments, acne. You wear it for 3 minutes a day, and it provides a home version of a treatment that you could have professionally. I find it hard to look at you with that on.
How do I look? Like a sort of sci-fi Greek tragedy?
Oh, slightly menacing, but also kind of cool, maybe.
Like cool?
Ish.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely it looks like, it's...
Change the colour of the lights. Oh, yeah, that's less menacing. The red one is the particularly
The
intimidating
purple one is more gentle. So what I find extraordinary about this device is of all of them, it looks the most bananas. And yet there is actually quite good evidence that these LEDs emitting light, using LED light therapy is quite beneficial for a range of different skin conditions. The difficulty is that all that evidence comes from a clinical setting where someone has really adjusted and been careful about the light frequency, the intensity, the duration. And it's much harder to do that with a mask at home. So I think the jury is out on these, but I think to get the full benefit, you've still got to see a healthcare professional.
What we're seeing is a lot of devices that can do the job that they claim to, but we still need to change our behaviour. Ultimately, it's all about human behaviour and about sticking with the things that you're doing so it doesn't become like the gym membership that you're not using anymore.
So to me, this technology now is very impressive. The data it gives you is accurate, but it's still hard to use the data. The one place I'd say if you're going to spend money is a movement tracker. It does seem to encourage activity, and we know that's good.
We've exposed all manner of fake remedies on this show. Just when you think you've seen it all, take a look at this. I'm talking about spells for sale, health spells, which is just utterly bonkers. But a simple internet search reveals pages and pages of spells for sale on different websites, curing anything from mental health to weight loss. And let's have a look at what we can get. So, first one, you can get a weight loss spell for only £4. Bit of a bargain, it seems. This one promises to make you thin. Nearly 4,000 5-star reviews. And something dodgy is going on there, isn't it? So this next one claims to be able to sort out your health altogether. A health healing spell. A bit more pricey, £35. They do want, however, your name, your date of birth, and potentially a photo. So they will be taking your details. Something to be mindful of. Now, the next one, low in stock, I suppose because it could be pretty popular. We are talking about a death spell. Apparently, you could buy a spell to cast someone to death. £20, 3 reviews, and one says good communication, fast service, but still waiting for results. It's important to point out that, of course, spells can't sort out your health. You can't cast someone to death, and you certainly can't get thin through a spell, but they're online and they're available to buy. We reached out to Etsy, one of the platforms where you can buy these spells, and they said to us that sellers run their own shops, but that the site is monitored and users are able to report listings that may not follow its policies, including a specific policy on divination and spells. So there you have it, spells for sale.
To be viral has very different meaning in the medical and the social media worlds, but does millions of views really translate into something being good for us? Throughout this series, we're going to be looking at online health trends and working out if they're a con, a cure, or something in between.
And there are such a wide range of claims about the benefits of CBD on social. Can we trust them?
It's really interesting because it's not just on social media. On the high street, in the shops, CBD oil in lots of different forms is widely available. So it is really important to dig into this. Now, a lot of the excitement around CBD oil and those products on the high street comes from the fact that CBD, cannabidiol, is really effective in certain medicines in the UK. So we use them for rare kinds of epilepsy, for the side effects of chemotherapy, for multiple sclerosis. So we do have some reason to think this molecule is important.
And is what you get on the high street the same as the medical prescriptions?
So that is a really good question. The first thing is the dose, the quality, the way it's prepared vary, very widely. And so there's a huge difference between a neurologist, a medical specialist saying, take this particular drug at this dose for this condition, to the kind of general wellness claims of less kind of thoroughly prepared products on the high street.
Okay. And what does the evidence say about CBD?
That's the most important thing. When you're looking at these kind of trends and health claims, in the end, what you want to know is, has it been researched by independent scientists in proper trials with long follow-ups, gathering proper data to figure out if it works? There has been a lot of research on CBD, and at the moment, there is really very little evidence to support all these claims about arthritis and depression, skin and
immune system,
all these different things. The evidence does not suggest a benefit from the high street products. Now, lots of people use them and like them and would say, but that product hasn't been tested. This particular thing hasn't been followed up. There is ongoing research, and we will learn much more about CBD over the next few years. But for the moment, I would say the evidence does not really support any of the claims.
There are so many products with CBD on the high street. Are they safe?
So I think it's easy to have the impression they're really completely safe because they're not really a regulated product. They're heavily marketed. You are allowed to sell them to children and give them to children, although you're not meant to. There's a sort of guidance that it shouldn't be offered to under 18s. They have very few side effects. They are generally safe, but they do have some side effects. So irritability, nausea, and fatigue have been reported. And the other thing is, in high doses, they do alter the way your liver processes other drugs. So if you're on medication, speak to your doctor. It's not a big risk, but it is there.
Oh, really useful to know as ever. Thank you.
In general, I would say ignore the hype, wait for proper research. At the moment, I don't think these are benefiting nearly as many people as they claim.
If you've got any questions or stories you'd like to share with us at Con or Cure, you can email us at hello@conorcure.tv.
Well, that's us for today. Join us again for more myth-busting and checking out cons on social media.
And for more advice on what to look out for if you're looking for cures.
Goodbye.
We've got the latest action in Paisley with paramedics on scene next.